to reveal these things to mortal humans. Methods are also given whereby these beings can be contacted. Now, I read Sefer Yetzirah with Rabbi Ari Kaplan's translation, and I don't recall that quotation. I looked it up later; it's there, but I'm like, how the hell did I miss that? Anyway, did you ever read the Ari Kaplan Sefer Yetzirah?
No.
Highly recommended. Okay, now, quote, under the firmament of Vilon. So this is an ancient reference to what the later Kabbalists called Olam Ha'asiyah. The inhabitants of the Teli, he says, are humanoid. Indeed, they are. They are the original, and this is Rabbi Bartzadok's, interpretation. They are the original reptilians. Their original home was here on Earth. Okay, so he's referring to the Nahash, but when he uses the term reptilian, he's not
using it in the same way that Alex Jones uses it.
Right, he's using. No, Alex Jones never really used the word reptilian. That's David Icke and people like that.
I'm saying he never uses it in the same way that these people.
Right. So, but just the fact that he's using the word reptilian, he's kind of messing around to intrigue the audience. That's why. Yeah. But they were in terms of because dragons, right? So they're reptilian, I suppose.
Yeah.
So they are the original reptilians, and their original home was here on Earth. So that's true. I'm not contesting that part. God created them here. They grew up and matured. Greg, listen to this.
I'm listening.
They grew up and matured until eventually they became spiritual beings, now serving as the watcher angels and the guardians. The reason why they are here is because they have always been here. Earth is as much as their home as it is ours. Essentially, the Teli are our older brothers and sisters.
Interesting.
I just heard a massive thunderclap.
Yeah, what the hell?
You heard that?
That is crazy, dude. I thought that was some kind of effect.
No, dude, that was freaking...
That is insane.
Dude, that made my heart jump. Anyway.
That's insane.
Anyway, the Teli will often interact with human beings.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when they come to Earth, they take on human form, and they become known to us as the human-like angels called the Ishim. The Rambam talks about them. The Teli have been with us since the beginning. They were here long before the pre-Adamic human civilizations of the previous Shemitah, which he calls here Atlantis, Lemuria, ? He does that because, in popular culture or in Western culture, we have legends about civilizations that were very advanced and that they collapsed more than 10,000 years ago, and we call them, because of Plato, Atlantis. Yeah. So he's saying that he's matching. He goes, the stories of what we call today Atlantis are really the story of these pre-Adamic human civilizations from the previous Shemitah. So I'll say again, the Teli have been with us since the beginning. They were here long before the pre-Adamic human civilizations of the previous Shemitah, and indeed worked with them. Just like now, they work with us. There are many, many more secrets about the Teli. They are very active in human society today. They are very much a part of modern-day UFO and alien folklore. Essentially, the secret is that many so-called extraterrestrial encounters are not extraterrestrial at all. They are often close encounters with the Teli Dragon Masters, who disguise themselves in various forms for reasons known only to them. Like the immortal prophet Elijah, Eliyahu Hanavi, they come and go in human form, without anyone ever having a clue as to their authentic identity. Indeed, when Elijah, was taken up into quote-unquote heaven, he was transformed into the angel Sandalphon. Essentially, Elijah was taken by the Teli and absorbed into their ranks. This is why he comes and goes as they do. Okay, the dragons of the Bible are real. The biblical ritual during temple times to offer a goat to Azazel on Yom Kippur was very much directed by them. No, there is no actual devil, as believed in other religions. Azazel is not Satan, and regardless of midrashic metaphors that identify the two, it is always dangerous and foolish to take literally that which is meant to be understood as symbolism and metaphor. The biblical Yom Kippur ritual had its own wisdom and purpose, far removed from our reality, as we are far removed from its time period of thousands of years ago. What the ritual meant is today subject to the 70 faces of Torah. So take your pick as to which interpretation best suits your personal perception in our quantum universe. Let it suffice for us to know that all our interpretations, like everything else here on earth, is under the watchful eye of the watchers / the seraphim / the teli. They're doing their job and serving God. Let us learn from and focus on doing ours. So, just a quick word about the Azazel ritual on Yom Kippur, right? The goat. Okay, so first of all, we're not sacrificing a goat to the demon Azazel or to the angel Azazel or anything of that nature. Okay.
Sure.
Azazel is the name of the place where the ritual occurred. Okay, it's the name of the place. Now, the name of the place is related to the actual being Azazel, and that sacrifice is not done to him, but it's done for him on his behalf. Did you know that?
Yes.
There's he was a very high level angelic being who fell very hard, and his story is representative of everybody who falls and needs atonement. Okay, so when we atone for ourselves, we want to help him to get in good with God. We want to atone for, there's obviously a lot more to it. But we're not doing any kind of, we're not serving him, God forbid. Okay, he's a finite being just like us. We're trying to help him out to get him in good with God, and also this is like an infinite topic that we could spend our lives talking about this one thing. But that's the basic idea as far as I understand.
Sure.
Would you like to read the rest?
Yes, I would.
The next.
All right, this is essay number 2. The danger of disclosure. There we go. Oh yeah, buddy.
I can't believe you're picking that up. Usually this thing doesn't pick up anything.
I'm picking it all up. All right. Are the governments of the world united in a conspiracy to keep silent about what they know with regards to the reality of extraterrestrial life and the equally real interactions those aliens have long had with us here on Earth? Officially speaking, no authoritative government source will acknowledge such alien life or such encounters. This is 2017. Privately speaking, many have already acknowledged such things. Off the record, many will make claims, the likes of which are not minor or insignificant. The one thing that these off-the-record remarks seem to share in common is not so much that there are aliens or that they are visiting us, rather that these off-the-record remarks seem to share a very disturbing commonality. All seem to agree, not only are aliens real and here now, but they are dangerous and we definitely have something to be worried about. It seems consistent. Many private persons who claim to be in touch with aliens seem to believe that the aliens are friendly and nice. Many of these believe aliens will become some sort of saviors for humanity. Off the record government sources, who are the ones who have the ability to actually be in the front lines of actual alien encounters, tell a very different and frightening story. So which is it? Are aliens our cutesy friends from outer space, or are they dangerous forces whose intentions towards us are not cute, benign, or benevolent? What do our governments really know? What really is motivating them to clamp the lid of secrecy down so tight as not to let slip the slightest amount of truth, whereas at the same time allow whistleblowers whose revelations do absolutely nothing to calm public concern and distress? Yes, our governments know something. Over the years, they have learned many things through what is now decades of extraterrestrial contacts. What our governments know frightens them, and if we knew, would frighten us even more. So, allow me to reveal some information here. What my readers will decide to do with what I share will be entirely up to them. Let me reveal now why there will not be a public disclosure of the alien presence, not sooner, not later, and most likely not ever. Think about this. If the powers that be acknowledge that they picked up signals from an intelligent alien source hundreds or thousands of light years away, what kind of impact would that have on our day-to-day affairs? Most likely not much. It's like my friend says, how does this affect my life? Granted, there would be a lot of curiosity and entertainment, but nothing substantial would come of it to change the way we live on a daily basis.
I disagree, but continue.
Okay, now let's change the equation. What if the powers that be who are searching for ET all the way, quote unquote, out there, discovered them but found that ET is not out there at all, but rather that they are much, much closer? What if it was discovered that ET is actually from another dimensional plane, another dimension of our own planet Earth? What if ET is here now and has always been here? What if ET can slide into and out of our dimension at will using either a mechanical or psychic form of transportation? What if ET is, by our standards definition, malevolent and always has been? What if ET has the power to manipulate human cognitive perception, making us see them when we do see them in any size, shape, or form of their own choosing? What if we discovered all these things and have already engaged ET in a war for the future of humanity? What if we are losing this war? If all these things were true, what would our governments disclose? What could they disclose? What could the powers in charge reveal among these lines without causing a global crisis of massive panic? What if such a global panic and crisis is exactly what negative ET really wants? Our governments would have to go to any extreme to prevent such global crises, societal panic, and collapse. Maybe this is why there is such a comprehensive conspiracy of silence. Maybe there has to be. Think about this. Consider it fiction, if you will. Let us say that our human civilization is not the first technologically advanced civilization to have developed here on Earth. Let us say that thousands of years ago there was another. Let us say that this ancient civilization, let's just call it Atlantis or Lemuria, faced its own series of natural disasters, and in order to survive, a select few traveled in three directions: to the stars, to a parallel dimension, and to the inner recesses of the Earth, in accordance to the hollow Earth theory. Let us say that the survivors thrived, and now, thousands of years later, well entrenched in their new homes, they have no need to return to what is now our Earth. Nevertheless, these earlier Earthers still have an integral attachment to this planet. Indeed, it is very possible that they are the ones who have guided us through the centuries. Maybe they have an agenda to move us along a developmental path with the intent to eventually unite us with themselves. Maybe there's truth to all of this. Now, what would happen if these early Earthers, technologically advanced as they are, were discovered by our modern scientists and military authorities? What if they did not want their presence, their identities, their agenda, or their tools to accomplish said agenda known to us? What if they are the ones who the Bible calls the Watchers? If our world governments today were aware of these entities and the potential, if not actual, threat they present to us, would it then be safe or responsible for them to make known the ET presence? If our governments know full well that they cannot properly protect the public from what might be malevolent ET hands, is it responsible to make such a public confession? Think about these things carefully. One might say that we all have the right to know the truth, regardless of how devastating that may be. But where do we draw the line? When do we say that public safety and stability outweighs the rights of the individual to have access to certain information? If there's a real ET alien agenda and it involves manipulating human current events, and there is nothing that we can do to influence this, then is it wise to reveal this and thus allow public fear and panic to reign free? Maybe sometimes it's best to hide the devastating truth until something can be done to neutralize any dangers. Then again, maybe this is all speculation and fantasy. Maybe these are all the thoughts of an imagination run wild. Maybe there are no aliens or an alien agenda. Maybe. Or again, maybe not. Yeah, this guy pisses me off. If there's a cause for alarm, then indeed it would be the wise and prudent thing for any government to reassure the public that all is well in order to avoid what could very well become a global crisis of fear. Anything that can be considered a threat, but it's still very far away from, is not so much a cause for alarm. If there are aliens far, far away from us in outer space, that might be exciting news. but it is not going to change our daily affairs. If, however, the aliens are much closer to us in space and closer to us in other ways, then maybe such a reality is not the one the vast majority of individuals can handle. Conspiracy theories run wild among us. Each one is more wild and silly than the other. People love to be entertained. People love to believe wild things. But at the end of the day, there's a reassurance that none of it is going to affect us personally and intimately. So, if there are ETs out there far away, so what? But if the ETs are real, are dangerous, and out of our control, then it is best that the world governments guard this secret carefully and fight a silent, secret war for the sake of humanity's future. Maybe this is what is really going on. And if this is too frightening a thought to consider, then dismiss it out of hand. Dismiss it as mere wild speculation. Go relax, go about your day, enjoy life, and forget about it. Maybe this is for the best. Maybe this is the way things need to be. If there are going to be changes tomorrow, then let tomorrow come and we'll deal with the changes then. As for today, let's get along with life and be thankful for all that we have. If you are religious and believe in a higher power, then pray to that higher power and ask for world peace and personal protection. God has his secrets. Governments have theirs, and we each have our own. Let it be. If you seek hidden truths, so be it. But if you discover hidden truth and then take into consideration with whom that truth can be shared, you will discover for yourself that not everyone can handle the truth, every truth. Here's my question, man. But like, we understand that Hashem is controlling all this anyway. So
Yeah.
What's the hop? You know what I mean? Like,
okay, but look, Hashem created some kind of user experience for us. Like, think about a computer system. That's always a great metaphor.
Yeah.
A computer system, or like a virtual computer system, where you put on glasses, you're inside the computer, you're inside this computer world. He designed the interface and the user experience, right? He designed a whole bunch of stuff. He created the world for some reason with some kind of hierarchy, with some kind of paternal, not paternal, but patternistic, paternist, like as there's a pattern, there's a hierarchy, there's a pattern, there's a chain-like descent, okay? And that's an equally important question. Why did he do that? Why does he want us to have this kind of, hierarchical, this kind of formal experience of him, in the sense where, he has messengers and he has delegates, he has ministers, and, it's set up like the court of a king, right? Like, you have these kind of species are his delegates, these species are his ministers, this kind of angel, that's his army, this is his general, and so on and so forth. Why do we need this? Right? That's something.
By the way, man, our friend Shifra Hendry, because I'm doing this live on YouTube as well. She writes, I don't know anything for sure, but the people I've been listening to for the past couple of years who sound very credible are saying that there are were very bad aliens behind most of the word, behind most of. Hold on.
Which takes us to our next essay.
Hold on, one second. I just want to read to you what she's saying. Come on, this is of course malware. Why live chat? Just 1 second. I want to finish reading this. 1 second. She wrote. Where'd it go?
I'm trying to find it.
No, she wrote live chat, but it disappeared. Anyway, but the word is that the bad alien. What?
I can kind of extrapolate what she's going to say, which brings us to our next essay.
No, but it says the world is the bad aliens are behind all the sick corruption and that they are now evicted from our solar system. Some of them, their minions, are still here. This fits the pushback.
Well, I don't. That's far more detailed information than anything I've ever heard. But can I read the next essay? Can we?
Sure.
Because it's kind of related to what she said.
Yeah.
Okay, so angel wars, the cause of human conflicts, or cause of human conflicts. There have always been wars here on Earth. Why? Why are we so self-destructive that we wipe out human life in the tens of millions? We erase entire civilizations, ruthlessly murdering their entire populations. Why are we so devastatingly cruel? Human-on-human violence seems to have been with humanity since the very beginning of human civilization. The only other recorded human behavior present from the dawn of history is the presence of religion. Violence and religion seem to be the two most ancient human behaviors, and also prostitution. He didn't want to throw it. And they certainly are no strangers to one another, but that's all related too. Indeed, very often throughout history, violence and religion have gone hand in hand. Okay. Religion usually involves the worship of this or that gods, with plural.
Yeah.
Often religions themselves define certain behaviors that often the quote unquote gods. The punishment for such an offense is usually death. This violence, for the most part, was still small in scale. When, however, competing religions clash over who gets to decide what the reality of the universe looks like, then we have the wars in the largest scale imaginable. Today, again, for the most part, our violent religious clashes take a second place to the more modern expressions of radical faith. Today's faiths are indeed religious in tone, in their psychological makeup and in the influence that they have on their believers. He's talking about Gnosticism, but more than not, they leave God out of the equation because they hate him. Okay?
Yeah.
They call him the demiurge, but whatever. The three most popular faiths today are not religions that revolve around God in heaven, but revolve around what is the right way for humanity to live here on earth. These faiths are, yes, they are faiths, are the three philosophical, economical systems that have taken over almost every part of our planet. These three systems are capitalism, socialism, and communism. This essay is not being written to discuss politics or to compare or weigh the pros and cons of the three political systems. Rather, my point is simple. In earlier times, when religions ruled the world, their minions regularly waged war one upon the other. Today, while some old-time religions still embrace the path of violence, the greatest, he's talking about Islam, the greatest perpetrators of crimes against humanity are those who act with such wanton disregard for human life, all in the name of this or that country, or in the name of one of our three new religions. Likewise, King Solomon said long ago, quote, "There's nothing new under the sun." That's Kohelet chapter 1, verse 9, which I think they call Ecclesiastes, right? I think Kohelet is Ecclesiastes.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Chapter 1, verse 9. What causes all of the conflicts to be so ruthlessly violent? Is this due to some inherent flaw within human design that seeks out self-destruction, or is there something much more sinister going on? The answer to this question is found in biblical and later literature about angels. Read on with caution. You may not like what you're about to learn. The Bible makes certain things very clear. God's definition of morality and our human definition do not match. God clearly states through the prophet Isaiah, he's talking about the prophet Isaiah in chapter 45, verses 6 through 7, quote, "In order that they know from the shining of the sun and from the west that there is no one besides me, I am the Lord and there is no other, who forms light and creates darkness." And listen to this, "who makes peace and creates evil. I am the Lord who makes them all." Okay, that's the ultimate statement in the Bible that God is the master of all things. You don't have a separate God that's responsible for the evil. God is in charge of absolutely everything. Ein od milvado. Okay, moving on. God is the creator of evil. There is no other. And God will use whatever he created for whatever ends that he seems fit. Again, God speaks through the prophet. And this is Isaiah chapter 55, verses 8 through 9. Quote, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, says the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts higher than your thoughts." Again, that's Isaiah chapter 55, verses 8 through 9. So God is certainly not apologetic for the divine way, nor for our lack of human understanding of the divine way. Human understanding is not required. This alone reveals to us much about the true nature of the divine. First and foremost being that it certainly is not human. According to the Bible, God is in charge of everything. Whatever transpires on earth has its origins in the realms of heaven. God actively involves himself in human affairs, not always for one's personal betterment. The example of Pharaoh in the days of the Exodus is well known. By the way, I disagree with him, but let me read what he said. Quote, "But I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and I will increase my signs and my wonders in the land of Egypt." That's from Shemot, or Exodus chapter 7, verse 3. Later, God turns against Ahab, the king of Israel, and intentionally seeks to deceive him. The intent being that Ahab will act upon the deception being true. Ahab will be led to a terrible, violent outcome. Quote, "And he said, therefore, listen to the word of the Lord. I saw the Lord seated on his throne, and all the hosts of heaven were standing by him on his right and on his left. And the Lord said, who will entice Ahab, so that he will go up and fall in Ramoth Gilead?" That's like an area in Israel. "One said in this manner, and another said in that manner. And a certain spirit came forth and stood before the Lord and said, I will entice him. And the Lord said to him, how? And he said, I will go forth, and I will be a lying spirit in the mouth of all of his prophets." And by the way, Ahab's prophets were idolatrous. They were idol worshiping. They weren't the prophets of God. But anyway, and he said, you will entice and you will prevail. Meaning God said that to the spirit. Go forth and do so. And now, behold, the Lord has placed a lying spirit in the mouth of all these prophets of yours. Right? He says yours, not his. Whereas the Lord spoke evil concerning you. So that is a quote from the first book of Kings, chapter 22, verses 19 through 23. Okay, so I slightly disagree with the rabbi here, because I've heard of a deeper understanding of Pharaoh, who he was, what his spiritual origin was within God himself, and why God acted like that, which was partly for his benefit and for the benefit of the Egyptians, but not in the short term. For their consciousness, for the evolution of their consciousness in later lifetimes. So it is for the benefit, but perhaps not as apparent. You with me?
Yes.
All right. Now we may write back to the text. We may rightfully ask, by what right does God have, even if he is the creator, to intentionally manipulate human minds? Why does he create evil? And as we see with regard to both Pharaoh and Ahab, so freely use it? So we all know the story of the Exodus. We all know that the final plague that led to the freedom of Israel from Egypt was the killing of the firstborn. If this really literally happened, we must ask, was every victim of this terrible plague individually worthy of death? Wasn't there at least one of them who could have been innocent? What about later with the parting of the sea, which led to the destruction of the Egyptian army? Those men all went to their deaths following their Pharaoh's orders. Like Alfred Lord Tennyson wrote in his Charge of the Light Brigade, theirs not to make reply, theirs not to reason why, theirs but to do and die. The duty of a soldier.
Sure.
Does anyone ever think about the devastating effects these actions had on the surviving family members of these men who were killed? Here I am expressing human moral concern. But as we already know, quote, my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, says the Lord. Isaiah 55:8. And, quote, I am the Lord who forms light and creates darkness, who makes peace and creates evil. I am the Lord who makes them all. Isaiah 45:6 and 7. Who am I? Who are we to challenge the morals of heaven? According to the Bible, we are clearly all in the hands of God and subject to his, quote, higher thoughts and ways. Regardless of whether those thoughts or ways agree with or conform to human moral standards. God acts as God does, but God alone does not act in this way. God has delegated this authority, and power to his overseeing angels, those that direct human affairs on the divine behalf. Let me stop for a second. The answer to the question that some people might be having right about now is no, he doesn't need angels to do this. He decided to do this. Where just as a king can come and open the door to the palace himself and let you in, he doesn't do that. He has a whole hierarchy of courtiers and of palace guards and of all sorts of ministers, and there's an entire protocol to speak to the king. Remember that scene from History of the World of the Roman part where someone comes in to see that general comes in to see
biggest something, biggest.
No, that's biggest. That's from a different. Right, that's one.
Okay.
But the guy that
that's the Monty Python. Sorry.
Yeah, the general comes to say, and then like the emperor's herald, right? The guy who makes the announcements.
Yeah.
He keeps following the guy as he's walking closer to the Caesar, and he keeps saying to him, "Remember, thou art mortal. Remember, thou art mortal." And
Marcus Vindictus.
Yeah, Marcus Vindictus. Right.
Can I play this for the folks at home?
Yeah, but hold on. Remember, thou art mortal. Yeah. Right. So, all right, just play that one moment because I'm like in the middle of a point, and I don't want to.
I know, I understand, but it's very funny.
I did this to myself.
It's fine.
I recognize.
Is this the Roman Senate, or this is something?
No, like Caesar's palace. Or...
All right, let's do. Every time I hear Caesar, I think of the Russians going to see like Modern Talking. We're going to Caesar's palace.
Yeah.
To see Modern Talking.
Right.
All hail Caesar, Emperor of Rome, monarch of the Roman Empire, ruler of the world.
Hail Caesar! Hail Caesar!
Watch this. Watch.
Hail Caesar!
Watch.
Hail Caesar!
I love that.
Hail Caesar!
This is why Dom DeLuise is the funniest man who ever lived. This is why.
Hail Caesar!
Are you kidding me?
Hail Caesar! Hail Caesar!
No one comes here.
It's funny because it's not that far off from how actually the guy behaves.
Probably.
Like kind of a little fruity, you know? Exactly.
Look at the look on his face right now. Watch this look. Hold on. Not bad.
All hail the commander of His Majesty's Roman legions, the brave and noble Marcus Vindictus, who returns to Rome after winning a great victory over the Cretans at Sparta.
Cretans at Sparta.
Make that the Spartans at Crete.
The Cretans at Sparta.
Remember, thou art mortal. Remember, thou art mortal. Remember, thou art mortal. Remember, thou art mortal.
Oh, blow it out your ass.
Oh, Caesar. I have brought your illustrious name before the four corners of the earth. I subdued and conquered the barbaric hordes in the name of Rome.
Okay, stop.
I penetrated into the fathers.
What's under the sheet?
Remember the look at he's like, oof.
Yeah.
That look at it. You can't make that up. You got to know what it feels like to just be so.
Yeah.
Like you've overeaten, you've partied too much.
Yes.
You're jaded by everything. He expressed all of that in that face. No one could do that. No one.
Yeah.
Anyway, he's the best. Dom DeLuise is on top. So again, back to the main point. Why am I telling you about this? This shows you that even stupid little puny little human kingdoms, right? They set up these kind of like rules, and all the like it's universal. Like everywhere you go, even like the Incas had that system. Like the Incas in Rome, we're told historically they didn't know each other, right? Like every kingdom had this kind of like setup. It seems to be ingrained within the fabric of the universe itself, right? It's almost like it has to happen that way. Why? Because what they're trying to do is mimic the court or
Yeah.
the kingdom of the true king, the only real king, God, right? So God set up this universe as a kingdom, with him as the king, with us as the subjects, and with all sorts of ministers and delegates and generals and armies and all that kind of stuff. So the angels, that's the role that they play. They play part of, like, they're like the bureaucrats within this, this universe of this bureaucracy. God set up some sort of hierarchical bureaucracy. Okay? And the beings that are in this bureaucracy, right? The ministers and all the bureaucrats, right? And they were once like us. You hear this?
Yes.
They were once like us. They started out like us. And then when they ascended,
Yeah.
as we will ascend after Mashiach comes, right?
Mm-hmm.
They became part of the staff.
Yeah.
All right. Like he spoke about in other places, there have been previous epochs, previous cycles of time where we were all there before. We were all named slightly differently. We all had, that epoch had its own flavor, had its own, but the same basic events, the same biggies, the big stuff.
Yeah.
There was an Abraham. There was a Moses.
Yeah.
There was a Messiah. There was a resurrection of the dead. And then the Israel of that period became the angels.
Yeah.
Of now to us.
Mm-hmm.
And that's apparently
Became
like graduation system.
And now we have Arsim,
Right.
which is a step up above.
Although I think this one might be the last. This might be the
How do we get from angels to Arsim? Can you explain that to me?
to what? To what?
Arsim.
To Arsim? What the hell is that?
Arsim, Israeli Arsim.
I don't know what that is.
It's like a Israeli redneck. Usually they are Sephardi. Can I show the folks at home what I'm talking about?
Oh my God! All right, I thought you were talking about something profound, and you're like,
No, I mean it's quite profound if you think about it.
all right.
Here you go.
Never heard of this.
Dude, Arsim, like,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know.
yeah, they even made a whole thing about this. Let's share the screen. Ready? Are you ready for the?
By the way, before you continue,
These-
people might be thinking, well, what's the whole point of this? Again, God, we spoke earlier. God is like, he's created the metaphor of a farmer, or he's more of what do you call a winemaker? Somebody with a vineyard. There's like a special name for those that, a grape farmer. I don't think that's the name. There's like a special term.
I mean, there's viticultural. I don't know.
Sommelier? No, that's like a wine expert.
No, winemaker, just a winemaker. Yeah.
God's a winemaker. He grows grapes. He has many vineyards. Each grape is a consciousness.
Yeah.
Okay. And so apparently the experience of being in this world, right, is a way to grow the consciousness by putting the soul in moralistic dilemmas.
Yeah.
Okay. It's all about learning morals through the experiences. So really the root of everything is a moralistic experience, which is why when people study Torah, the surface meaning the interpretation, the commentary that's taught to all is the moralistic interpretation, because it's supposed to affect you morally, even though it has the details about all the stuff we're talking about. That's not, knowing about this is not really the point. The only reason we're talking about this is because it's really close to being revealed anyway.
Yeah.
Sorry, continue.
The Israeli Valley, a breathtaking view that has always attracted a wide range of species trying to eke out their existence. The desert fox searching for food in every corner, the indigenous antelope, and the desert snake that hovers over the smooth sand. But the tranquility here is disturbed by this pack of creatures, the herd known as the Israeli Ossawats. This herd belongs to the tribe known as the Skinny Ossawats, lean-looking Ossim who exploit their nimble build to escape from the wardens of the reserve. The Skinny Ossawats are essentially a part of the R tribe.
By the way, these guys are Jews.
Ossim who
Yeah, I know
communicate
that.
between themselves using just one syllable. R. The R signifies for them an abbreviated form of expressing whatever they desire, using this lone syllable to communicate all information. The R tribe are made up of several sub-tribes, such as the sharpened little fingernail tribe. Ossawats who in the period of their adolescence grow an extended fingernail that signifies their manhood. This serves them in the hunt for the barboonia in the river. At the conclusion of this meal, he uses the same fingernail to remove the debris between his teeth, the same way one would use a toothpick. Other species from this family are the Havanagila tribe, the religious Ossawats, the hipster Ossawats, the hairdresser Ossawats, the Malfimberibit, and of course the most veteran species of all, the tribe of the Chai, the Tzomer, and the Domem, his brain. Without exception, they all worship one thing.
Go.
The
Zohar,
gods
go.
of the Mizrahit.
Yeah,
While
when I
the
sing
younger
it.
members of the Skinny Ossawats tribe worship the younger gods. These musical Ossawats also like to spend their spare time playing cards. Our anthropologists understand this and plant a hidden camera next to a green card table. Let us observe how they react. But what really interests our anthropologists are those that lose in the card game, the victims of the Malvimberibit. These two Skinny Ossawats failed to repay a debt from losing a card game. The Skinny Ossawats attempt to employ their physical lightness, but the Malvimberibit is determined to receive his dues. The tension is at its peak. Despite their physical toughness, most members of the tribe are driven by a naive and natural curiosity. They tend to roam and gather behind news reporters covering events in the reserve. For some unknown reason, the Ossawats like to congregate behind these reporters and form a connection with a world less familiar. Towards the anthropologists who have come to document them, however, they will be less friendly. This tribe belongs to a group with a small brain and penis, a tribe who particularly enjoys partaking in mass altercations. Katla means a fight. Unfortunately, they didn't make it in time to this fight. The park rangers got there first. The average speed of the Skinny Ossawats can reach up to 35 kilometers an hour. The park rangers are heavy, and the frightened Ossawats understand that they mustn't be caught. They increase their pace. But eventually they realize they have no choice, and they disperse. One of the Ossawats who escaped suddenly identifies a shiny iPhone placed between a pair of vegetarian hipsters who have come for a picnic in the reserve. He grabs it and retreats. An iPhone such as this can sustain him for an entire year. He will dig a hole and keep it for darker days ahead. However, the female hipster fails to comprehend him. The Ossawat will place it in a bag and bury it in a hole. There are days of hunger ahead. Some of the others won't be troubled by hunger.
Yeah, we're gonna
They
fast
have
forward this.
arrived at Neve Midbar.
I'm gonna fast forward this.
Too late, bro.
I know.
Now they can calm hell. But migration of the tribes to the big city. Like this tribe of wandering Ossawatim on wheels. The alpha males. A pack of young Ossawats that commute in Alphas and Mustangs and who forewarn of their arrival. Their aim to mate with females from the Moadonim area of the reserve.
יא אללה, איזה שש סגוניות ככה באמצע היום, איזה שמלות. מה זה, חזרתם מנשף? יאללה, מאיפה צמחתם לנו ככה באמצע האספלטים? מאיפה? מה הכפר? למה את לא עונה? מה עכשיו שקטות איזה עכשיו סמנטה פוקס?
This is
These
not.
alpha-whites are more sophisticated than the males from the R tribe and use more vocabulary.
Stop it, dude. I can't watch this anymore.
Hold on.
באוזן
You gotta
נקבה,
get.
מה?
No, this is. You have to see this. You have to see this.
Lampooning of
יאללה, סע,
Sometimes
סע, יא
Israelis, you
תפורה,
can
מה היא
imagine.
עשה?
מה זה?
יאללה, תן גז, יא אנאלפביתה אחד.
איך קראת לי?
אנאלפביתה, ומבחינתך אני לא פרח, אני דרדרי.
יאללה, סיס יד מהחברה המדרדרית שלך, יא טרן תחת, יא כונף על העמי, את יותר טובה ממני, כולך ציונית תסכולך. את והחברה שלך.
יאללה, סע, אינשאללה תיכנס בקיר בלי חגורת בטיחות על מהירות של 200 קמ"ש, יא מעפן.
Poetry, Shira.
Yes. No.
This is the Selectorate,
No.
a fierce and sophisticated female who has mastered two
Yes.
syllables. Yes
No.
and no.
Yes. No.
Our alpha-wats are confronted with a serious problem. The Selectorate tonight looks particularly fierce.
Yes.
Our friends from the R tribe observe the proceedings from the side, waiting for the right opportunity to
Yeah,
get
these
in.
guys can't get into the club.
Watch what happens. Watch what
No.
happens.
מנו,
No.
מנו, אני כל פעם פה, תשאלי ג'וני הבעלים, למה לא?
The alpha-wats are confronted with difficulty in entering the party and an argument develops. The Selectorate has no choice, and she releases the
Russian
most
guy.
dangerous creature of all, the Russian bear. The Russian bears give chase, and the alpha-wats run for their lives. The members of the R tribe exploit the distraction to penetrate
These
the
are
party.
Russian Jews, by the way. These are.
Yeah.
The alpha-wats are less fortunate, and it seems that the Russian bears have them cornered in a dark alleyway. The Russian bears beat the alpha-wats badly, and they quickly lose consciousness. But the Russian bears won't be satisfied with just a beating. These bears like their arson fried. The bounty will be substantial tonight. Many necklaces of gold. But upon our friends from the R tribe, fate has smiled. They managed to enter the party.
Anyway.
So obviously, this is a very negative.
Yeah.
You know, it's a parody, but it's a cruel parody. It's as mean as you can possibly be. But basically, those are Israeli Guidos.
How did we get to that from what you were describing?
That's what I'm saying.
That was my question.
No, how did we get to that, folks? That's not the way it was supposed to be. That's not the way. That's not the way. That's not what Jews should be involved in. That's not how they should be looking. How they should be acting. How they should be talking.
They're emulating Arabs.
right.
Actually,
This
these
is
are the
what-
people who lived with Arabs.
No, it's not. It's not that, because you have religious Arabs too.
For sure.
Right.
But I mean, they're
Right.
emulating what
We're
Arab
talking
culture
about
is
Arab
today.
Guidos. This is a
Yeah.
modern phenomenon. Okay.
Yeah, I know.
What I'm talking about is like this. Who was it that said? Was it Ben Gurion that said that, you know, we want a country like everybody else, and we want to have crime
Jewish
and
prostitutes and Jewish.
prostitution like everybody else?
Yeah.
Well, they got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what that's about. Okay. It's about
Yeah.
the Gnostic fruitcake socialist assholes who they didn't really want to create a Jewish country. Okay. They wanted to create a possible socialist utopia.
But here's the irony: those guys that you just saw in the video, first of all, they are traditional. Some of them even become religious, and they are going to be the ones that will fight the Arabs to the death. They will not let go of Israel.
Yeah, folks. And by the way, in terms of them being skinny, that's a very, very big exaggeration. A lot of those guys are some of the toughest guys you're going to come across.
And even if they are skinny, that doesn't mean anything, because
No, I mean, even
are.
some of the skinny guys.
Yeah.
By the way, I saw some of these special forces units in Israel. None of them are really big, bulky guys. They're all very, very, very slim. They're super strong. They're super ripped, but they're slim. They're light. They're nimble. They're fast. They're agile, and they're athletic.
Yeah.
Okay. So don't let the skinniness fool you. Those guys.
No, exactly. Exactly.
Anyway, it's not nice. It makes me. You made me feel icky. you put ickiness on the inside of me.
My question was just in general, how did we, get?
Okay, so you're looking at a damaged, imperfect world. You're looking at, obviously that's not the only place in the world where we have problems.
Sure.
That's kind of mild compared to.
But it's just
anywhere
crazy to
else
think.
you go.
It's crazy to think how that is. I mean, again, it's ironic because it's crazy to think how those guys are Jews, but they are the guys who are, so to speak, the last line of defense between us and our enemies. Really,
they're emulating. Look, in the Torah we have rules that say we're not allowed to emulate the nations, the other nations. We have our own. We have our laws. We have our culture. We have our customs, and we have to maintain them and not try to mimic. And what you're seeing in Israel is just mimicry, embarrassing mimicry.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's what you get. That's what you get when you don't know what you have and you try to mimic others. You end up looking like
the girls
like version. See, they can't even copy.
Dude, their female counterparts, you know who they remind me of? They remind me of they're like Puerto Ricans almost. The girls, they're like Boricuas.
Yeah, well, not Boricuas. No, maybe Puerto Rican girls in Puerto Rico, not New York.
Yeah.
Because that's like a whole different animal. That's like a whole different.
And I was thinking to myself, if I even, these girls are Jewish, right? But like, if a guy like me goes somewhere and like tries to even date one of these kind of girls, it wouldn't even happen. For two reasons. One, like they wouldn't even go for me because I'm so like foreign to them, and like the way that I am and everything, and I don't even know what I talk to them about. Yeah, but more so they wouldn't go for me.
By the way, our experience of Israel is nothing like what you just saw, because the kind of thing that you'll see that like kind of more in the kind of urban centers.
Yeah.
There's a whole other side to Israel, which is spiritual, religious people.
Like this stuff, you're not going to see. You will see it in parts of Jerusalem, but you're not going to see it like in the city. But you're not going to see it in. You're
going to see in some residential neighborhoods and stuff like that. But it's not. That's not really. They're not giving you the correct impression. But anyway,
you're not going to see it in Ramat Bet Shemesh with the Americans.
Probably not.
Or Efrata or these kind of places.
Yeah. No. I mean, it's. Yeah, and he only showed you the hipster side of Israel too, like that's a whole huge like subcategory as well, which is nothing like what you just saw, or the religious.
Primarily in Tel Aviv and Haifa and this kind of place. Beersheba also.
Yeah. All right, but so getting back to like the main thing we're talking about, like the essay is damn it, it's called Angel Wars.
Yeah.
And the cause of human conflicts. Well, this might be partial answer to your question.
Yeah.
Okay. So, folks, if you can remember 50,000 years ago when we were reading something about angels and human conflicts. Yeah. Okay. So you're talking about, he was mentioning how God and his system are mysterious to us. We don't understand it. He has his own set of morals and his own, code of ethics, which apparently it's not required for us to understand it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And we quoted the verses, but anyway, so this is kind of, now he's saying, well, who am I, meaning as a person, who are we to challenge the morals of heaven? According to the Bible, we're clearly all in the hands of God and subject to his higher thoughts and ways, regardless of whether those thoughts or ways agree with or conform to human moral standards. God acts as God does, but God alone does not act in this way. God has delegated his authority. That's where we got into this, right? And power to his overseeing angels. And again, no, he doesn't need them. And they act as his delegates because he created some kind of hierarchical system where God is the king, he serves as the king, and he has a court. Okay? Mm-hmm. He has ministers and so on and so forth. And that's what the angels are. Okay. So he delegated this authority and power to his overseeing angels. He sees everything that they do because he's everywhere and he's all knowing. So you see what I'm saying? So it's not like, it's kind of like a play. It's kind of like this like unusual theater that God created, some kind of experience. And I don't know. So again, and God acts and does, but God alone does not act in this way. God has delegated his authority and power to his overseeing angels, those that direct human affairs on divine behalf. And here's a quote from Daniel, chapter 4, verse 14. By the decree of the wakeful ones, I'll say that again, by the decree of the wakeful ones is the matter, and by the word of the holy ones is the edict, in order that the living should know that the Most High rules over the kingdom of man. See? Whom he wishes, he gives it. And the lowest of men, he sets upon it. Okay.
That's the answer.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, dude. You know, that mean parody of Israelis, of some Israelis, it's really, nobody's more vicious to Jews than Jews.
I know.
Anyway.
I mean, I was obviously meant to be funny, but yeah. I hear what you're saying.
It's funny for how vicious it is to to those particular people that made it. It's not funny to me.
Yeah.
As we saw with regards to Pharaoh and the prophets of Ahab, I got to stop for a second because the guys that they're lampooning, I know guys like that. I care about guys like that.
Yeah.
And they're not like that. I mean, I know who they're trying to lampoon, but even guys like that who got into trouble, and sort of like that, they're still smart. They're still intelligent, thoughtful people. They have their moments too. They have a lot of potential. They're smart. A lot of them are really smart. Remember, they're Jews.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
You like that? You see what I did there? See what I did there?
Yeah.
That was a little bit of shtick, folks. Because I wish that were true. I wish that because they're Jews, they were smart, but that's not, unfortunately, not the case at all.
Yeah.
But a lot of them are good people, and they don't deserve that. They don't deserve it. All right.
You want to continue?
Basically, you know what that was? That was these like basically probably lefty woke pricks.
Oh yeah.
Punishing people who they think are not as sophisticated as them and therefore should be punished.
For sure. Okay. For sure, they are making that.
Okay, so back to so as we saw with regards to Pharaoh and the prophets of Ahab, God manipulates human consciousness to coerce individuals to act in accordance with the divine edict. We might very well, at this point, stop and ask about the extent of human free will. And although we may ask and speculate about our answer, no answer at all seems to be coming to us from heaven and our Creator. When Nebuchadnezzar was to be punished by heaven, you see, Rabbi Bar Tzadok should be learning Chassidut. He would be writing a little bit differently, but
yeah.
When Nebuchadnezzar was to be punished by heaven for his sins, the angelic authorities chose not to strike down the king with violence. Rather, in the opinions of many, they did something much worse. Quote from Daniel chapter 4, verse 13. They will change his heart from a man's, and the heart of a beast will be given to him. Changing one's heart in modern terms would be called inflicting the mind with mental illness, because the word in the biblical Hebrew for heart and mind is the same, leiv.
Yeah.
Essentially, the angels robbed Nebuchadnezzar of his sanity, and they drove him insane, clinically. Now, if the angels themselves were to remain faithful to the divine edict and simply serve as executioners of the divine will, then we would have no one to blame other than our Creator, God. But what if this is not the case? Listen, what if certain angels are taking matters into their own hands? What if angels are as corrupt as some human beings? If angels have the power over the minds of human beings, and they themselves are corrupt, how is this going to affect human affairs? We can return to the Bible for our answers. While we might want to believe that all angels are holy servants and faithful to God, this might not be the case. While Daniel was praying to God, this is important. While Daniel was praying to God, strangely, an answer was not forthcoming. The reason for this, as outlined in the Bible, is most peculiar. The angel who was sent by God with the answer to Daniel's prayer has this to say. This is from Daniel chapter 10, verse 13. It says, quote, "And the prince of the kingdom of Persia has been standing against me for 21 days. And behold, Michael, one of the first princes, has come to help. And I remain there beside the kings of Persia." Okay, so that's from Daniel chapter 10, verse 13. And that was actually the angel Gabriel speaking. So Gabriel was sent by God to answer Daniel's prayer. And Daniel was wondering why God wasn't answering his prayer, because he had asked the prayer 3 weeks prior. So when Gabriel sent to answer the prayer, to answer the question, the angel of Persia did not permit Gabriel to enter upon his jurisdiction. And it took the angel Michael to come and help Gabriel to get past the angel of Persia. Okay, so what's going on here? This is straight from the Tanakh, right? Okay. So the Bible reveals a secret. Each nation has their angelic guardian. Now, I'm going to skip ahead and just give you, he writes this elsewhere, that these angels of the nations, like of all the earthly nations, those angels are the fallen angels. Okay? And they were given the opportunity to right the wrong that they did by becoming the rulers of the nations of the world. Okay? But they were not rectified when God gave them this position. Meaning, if there's any improvement that's happening to the angels themselves, it's through the course of running human affairs of nations on earth. Do you understand? Like they weren't made righteous and then became the rulers of the angelic princes of each nation of the world. They were messed up, and they have to unmess themselves in the course of their ministering to the nations. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And those are not the watcher angels that we talked about earlier. These are the ministering angels of the planet. These are the princes of the nations.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, okay. So again, the Bible reveals a secret. Each nation has their angelic guardian. That's what we were just talking about. And each angelic guardian has an authority. He's lent authority by God, obviously. The angel may or may not choose to obey a heavenly edict. Now, the idea is you can escape the tyranny of these crazy angels by joining Israel. Who we don't have an angel that rules over us. Only God rules over Israel. Right? The point of that's one of the points of by the way, this is out of the text, but this is one of the points of assigning these like evil angels or these imperfect angels, you could say, to rule over the affairs of men. Because if you want to escape it, there's only one escape. Instead of having one of these angels as your king, right? And by the way, in other places in the Torah, these angels are referred to as other gods, lower class G. These are the other gods that God is referring to.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Don't follow other gods. Or all the ancient nations, they each, like Baal is one of these angels, one of these angelic ministers. All the different kinds of Baals and stuff like that. Okay. So angels. Okay. So one more time. I'm not going to go off script again. Okay. The Bible reveals a secret. Each nation has their angelic guardian, and each angelic guardian has an authority all his own. The angel may or may not choose to obey a heavenly edict. Angels are in charge, and they have tremendous powers over human beings, even over the faithful or the righteous religious ones. So this subject is well understood by the writers of the Kabbalah. One of them summarized matters like this. One of them that he's talking about is Rabbi Eliezer of Germiza.
Mm-hmm.
This is in Germany 1,000 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Angels whose names end with L. This is a quote from this rabbi. Angels whose names end with L are the guardians of the nations. And they fight with one another like bucking rams.
Mm-hmm. This I heard that. Okay.
The watchers described in Daniel are the angelic guardians of the earth. Not the same ones, okay? Not to be confused with the angels we were just talking about.
Mm-hmm.
In later rabbinic literature, the watchers are referred to as the heavenly Sanhedrin. That's the heavenly court. Associating a collection of angels under the name Sanhedrin implies a level of holiness and purity like that which was expected of the Sanhedrin here on earth. The Sanhedrin here on earth served as the supreme court of the Jewish nation throughout the later period of the Second Temple. But there was a Sanhedrin before that too. Okay. The sages of the Sanhedrin would debate biblical interpretations and pass rabbinic legislation. We would expect the heavenly Sanhedrin to be less contentious. However, we see that this is not the case. Indeed, we discover that the heavenly Sanhedrin is far more contentious than its human counterpart ever was. Okay, so he's talking about the lower heavenly Sanhedrin of the ministering angels, because there's also the higher Sanhedrin as well. But okay, he writes that elsewhere, so that's why. Okay. The watcher angels, they fight amongst themselves all the time. What happens among them? He meant to say the ministering angels fight amongst themselves all the time. What happens among them shouldn't concern us, but for the fact that when angels fight, they manipulate those nations under their dominion to also fight. I'll read that again with a slight amendment. The ministering angels, these princes of the nations, fight amongst themselves all the time. What happens among them shouldn't concern us, but for the fact that when angels fight, they manipulate those nations under their dominion to also fight. Basically, if you see two human armies fighting it out, there's something going on with those angels.
Yeah.
That is the initial cause of it.
So Ukraine and Russia, something's happening with this.
Which is kind of, yeah. Because most people think that the Russians and the Ukrainians are the same people.
Are the same. Yeah.
But they're not.
They have different angels, clearly.
Yeah. Thus, human wars are see, the Ukrainians that are actually doing all the fighting are Nazis.
Yeah.
Okay? And Russians are not Nazis. Okay? You could call them whatever. They're Russians, but they're not Nazis. These are two spiritual competing Gnostic cults.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the watcher, the ministering angels fight amongst themselves all the time. What happens among them shouldn't concern us, but for the fact that when angels fight, they manipulate those nations under their dominion to also fight. Thus, human wars are psychologically influenced by the malicious influence of the ministering angels on the human unconscious. The matter is summed up well here. Quote, there is no nation or tongue. This is a quote. There is no nation or tongue that does not have its own Tsar.
Yeah.
The Hebrew word
minister.
means prince.
Prince or minister. Yeah.
And what did you say?
It means minister or prince Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So again, there is no nation or tongue that does not have its own angelic prince in the upper worlds. Being that these supernal princes have become corrupted, they are constantly fighting, making war in heaven. Therefore, there is an overwhelming great compulsion upon all their nations below to fight more and more here on earth. This is why we have wars here on earth. It is because of the princes in heaven, these particular ones. And this comes from Sefer Tamuna, section 3. That's a very kind of fundamental Kabbalistic Torah text that, that's very authoritative. Okay, so I just want to clarify something that he didn't clarify here. He may have purposely confused the matter. I'm talking about Bar Tzadok.
Mm-hmm.
He does this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Which he reveals or changes later. But okay. The Watcher angel we discussed earlier were identified with these teli, with these which are the seraphim that Isaiah talks about, right? That he describes.
Mm-hmm.
These seraph angels, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Some of that species of angel are the fallen angels. So before they fell, they were a regular part of the teli. Do you understand?
Mm-hmm.
So the angels that were corrupted and then became as a means of, as a punishment, but as given the opportunity to rectify the damage that they did when they came to earth in Genesis chapter 6. Okay? They became the ministers of the particular nations. Okay? So he's, at this point, not making a distinction because ultimately they are a section. They were originally a part of the teli, but then became a subgroup when they became corrupted. Okay? That's the ministering angel. So people need to know the distinction. He wasn't emphasizing the distinction here, possibly to confuse matters, because Kabbalists like to reveal and then conceal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is that okay? Okay.
Yep.
So just how do these princes provoke wars? We cannot fully say, but we can learn from the biblical examples how angels influence and control human minds, or better to say, human emotions. Just outside the book for a second, that's how they confused people's minds in the Tower of Babel. They made them not understand each other.
Yeah.
That was the angels descended and confused everybody's mind. So angels are telepathic beings. It is in their nature to speak with human beings in dreams and visions, in a mind-to-mind style communication. As these compromised entities struggle and fight, he's now speaking about these fallen ministering angels. All those under their spiritual dominion are subject to their spiritual influence. Thus, as they fight above, their energy disturbances cause human imbalances, leading us to fight as well here on earth. This state of out-of-control, harmful, angelic influence is referred to in the Kabbalistic literature as galut, exile, the mystical understanding of exile. Essentially, as long as divine consciousness is blocked from human minds, the corrupting influence of fallen angels influences us all. In religions around the world, enlightenment is sought as a goal to escape the pain and sufferings of everyday life. In the Torah tradition, we pray daily for Geulah, which means redemption. Essentially, we too seek to raise global consciousness to recognize the harmful, negative influences that can overwhelm us from within our own minds and hearts. Real religion is never about competing or conflicting ideas or beliefs. Real religion has to proclaim a singular message: human unity, as part of the greater universal unity. This is the unity of that which we call God. The best way to overcome negative spiritual influences is to not give in to the negative ideas and beliefs that divide. So each individual must struggle within oneself to overcome the tendency that seeks division and thus to harm another. When we embrace unity within ourselves, we will have overcome those forces that seek our harm. This, in my opinion, is real religion and the most important thing before us to accomplish. Okay, so just quickly, and what he's really saying is you got to join Israel.
Yeah.
Sign up to be a citizen of the kingdom of the creator of the universe.
Yeah.
He's the king. He's the real king. So just sign up to be a citizen. That's what he wants. He wants human beings to choose to be a citizen and to choose him as a king.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a few ways to do that. There's actually only two ways to do that. How do you attach yourself to God's kingdom, Israel? How do you become a citizen of the universe, which is called Israel? That's the real name of the universe, folks.
Mitzvot.
And it's not an ethno thing. It's not like, oh, the Jews are in charge. No, it's God's in charge. He has a kingdom. He's a king of a kingdom called Israel.
Yeah.
Okay. So there are 4 houses of Israel. Greg can probably name 3 of them. Cohen, Levi, Yisrael.
Oh yeah. What's the last one?
The last one is called the Ger Toshav, or the Ger Tzedek. Okay, so there's a term called Ger Tzedek, which is, generally incorrectly translated as righteous convert or proselyte. But Ger really means a resident. Someone that lives somewhere, a resident, right? And it refers to our father Abraham as a ger, meaning he was a resident in other people's lands, and we were residents in a foreign land in Egypt, right? It refers to Israel as a resident too. It refers to us like that so that we would remember what it's like to be somebody that's residing in a foreign, right? We were residents in a foreign country, but the term ger just means a resident.
Yeah.
So you want to become a resident of Israel. So for people who are not Jewish out there, you have 2 options as to how to attach to Israel. You can become Jewish. It's open if you want. It's available until the Messiah comes, until Mashiach comes.
Yeah.
After that, the rest, for the sum total of humanity, will attach to Israel as the Ger Toshav, the Ger Tzedek, the 4th house of Israel.
Yeah.
Because you're going to want to get away from crazy angels. Now, it's a whole separate discussion as to how they got crazy.
Yeah.
And why did God set this whole thing? God, basically, this universe so far has been a controlled chaos.
Pretty much.
God created and he programmed all of this chaos, all the crazy angels, destructions of universes, and all this kind of stuff. That's part of the process. There's nothing that happened on its own. There's no such thing as on its own. Okay. And every living being, which angels are living beings, they have their own relationship to God. And every type of being has its own stage of relationship to God. So obviously we know that even angels on the level of the Watcher Angel, the Teli, the Dragon Masters, as Rabbi Bartzadok likes to call them, which they are. I mean, they're that's the way they're described. They can screw up too, which means that they have a relationship to God on their own level. Okay, everything alive has that, and we're all subject to one another in some way, which complicates things even further. But anyway, we'll leave it at that. How do you feel?
You don't want to continue this?
No, I thought maybe that might be enough for today, and we can continue.
We'll talk about the native Earthers versus Space Brothers,
which we actually read before twice.
Yeah.
So we should read it again because it's that. I think it's that good.
And then there's Modern Mask for Ancient Visitors. Ooh, the reason for the cover up. We'll read about that. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Oh, what can we say? I feel like something's about to happen. I don't know what. I don't know why. I feel that. I do feel that. There's a lot of talk now about these side effects. Open talk, open discussion. I was talking to my friend the other day about, RFK Jr.'s purpose in this whole thing, and I happen to think that Trump
To
asked.
irritate me.
No, well, I think Trump asked him to either or drive a wedge in the Democrats, or to bring up this issue publicly and start the conversation about this one issue. All these people are up in arms and whatever it is, and they interviewed RFK, and he was saying, like, he gave a master. Did you see the master class that he gave to this doctor?
No,
You should.
I.
Can I show
But I
it?
won't.
Can I just show it for the folks at home?
Okay.
Just to see. Honestly, I want to show it. I'll tell you why. Not that I'm a super fan of RFK, but I want to show it because this is what I hope happens to every single freaking doctor in general, from now until forever. So this, like, kind of smuggish doctor, here, RFK. There's a whole.
Oh man, we're so close at finishing on a 33. Oh,
Yeah, right.
it's okay. Is this a 10-second clip?
No. It's really short. So I'll just play parts of it. But here.
Okay. You could begin playing it. I gotta just pee for a second. I'll be right back.
I mean, I wanted you to see this.
I can hear it. I can actually hear it.
Okay.
Say vaccine.
What was
Okay.
Overall, all those.
Okay. So here's the doctor asking RFK about this.
Good evening. Eradication of chickenpox and polio from the US and many parts of the world
Tariq
is a direct result of regular vaccines. Measles, mumps, rubella, and many diseases are preventable, and there's little to no evidence of these diseases in vaccinated population. Your vaccine stance is dangerous to the health and well-being of millions. Medical experts are deeply concerned about your message. How can we help you to come to the side of science?
What was the question? How can you help me come to my senses?
No.
No.
Side of science.
You are a very smart person.
Okay, so I think most people don't know what my stance is on vaccines. I've never been anti-vaccine, and I've said that hundreds and hundreds of times, but it doesn't matter because that is a way of silencing me. Using that pejorative to describe me is a way of silencing or marginalizing me. My position on vaccines, I think, virtually every American would agree with my stance on vaccines, which is that vaccines should be tested like other medicines. They should be safety tested. And unfortunately, vaccines are not safety tested. They're not. Of the 72 vaccine doses now mandated, essentially mandated, they're recommended, but they're really mandated, for American children. None of them, not one, has ever been subject to a pre-licensing placebo-controlled trial.
Yes, they have.
No.
Yes, they have.
Okay, let me just say something. Dr. Fauci and many other people for many years said this, that Bobby Kennedy, when he says that, is wrong. So I met with Dr. Fauci in 2016, and I agreed to go on Trump's Vaccine Safety Commission, and I was with Aaron Siri and Lynn Redwood and a number of other people, and we said to him, can you show us one test from any vaccine, pre-licensing safety test? And he said, I'll send it to you. I can't find one now. He never did. So we sued him. We sued Aaron Siri and I sued HHS. And after a year of litigation and stonewalling, they said that they could not provide a single safety study for any vaccine that is on the childhood schedule, pre-licensing safety study. So anybody who wants to read that can go to the Children's Health Defense website, and you can read HHS's admission that not a single one has ever been safety tested pre-licensing. Now, what I've said is other medicines are required to do that. And we should have to do that for vaccines. If I'm wrong, show me the test, show me the study. You won't be able to, because there are none. That means that we don't know what the long-term risks are, the risk profile of those products. And I'll give you mentioned chickenpox. So when CDC was thinking of recommending this chickenpox vaccine as mandating for children, they did a study, and the scientist they hired to do that study was a scientist called Gary Goldman, a contract scientist. And he did the study in an isolated place in California called Antelope Valley, a long-term study. And what they find is if you give the chickenpox vaccine, mass vaccinate with chickenpox, it stops chickenpox, but it causes shingles epidemics later on, which are 20 times as deadly as chickenpox. So if you go, nevertheless, despite those studies, we mandated for American children in this country. In Europe, they don't. If you go to the British National Health Service website right now, you can read on that where they say, we do not recommend chickenpox vaccines because it causes shingles epidemics later on. And that's the problem. You can't just look at, you can say that this product is going to prevent this particular disease, but you have to look at the long-term impacts. Vaccines, like other medicines, have injuries that have long diagnostic horizons and long incubation periods that if you do not do long-term studies on placebo-controlled studies comparing vaccinated populations to unvaccinated populations, you won't do it. Let me just give you one quick other example. The most popular vaccine in the world is the DTP vaccine, diphtheria, tetanus, and pertussis. We banned it, we got rid of it in this country because it was causing injuries, brain injuries, severe brain injuries or death to 1 in every 300 children. We used it in the 80s, and that's why there was all this litigation against vaccine companies that precipitated the passage of the Vaccine Act that then gave them immunity from liability. But in Europe, they don't use it. In America, they don't use it. But we give it to 161 million African children a year. So Bill Gates asked the Danish government to support that program and said it saved 30 million lives. The Danish government said, show us the data. He wasn't able to. So they went to Africa and did their own studies. And they looked at 30 years of DTP data. And what they found shocked them all. They found that girls who got the DTP were dying at 10 times the rate of unvaccinated girls. But they were dying of things that nobody had ever associated with the vaccine. They were dying of diphtheria, of anemia, malaria, bilharzia, pulmonary disease, respiratory disease, and pneumonia. And nobody noticed for 30 years that it was the vaccinated girls and not the unvaccinated girls that were dying. And what had happened is these girls were not dying of diphtheria, tetanus, and pertussis. The vaccine had protected them against those, but it had also ruined their immune systems. And they were unable to defend themselves against other just minor diseases that other kids who had hardy immune systems were able to fend off. So that's why you need these long-term studies. And that's why I'm worried that we don't do that here in the United States.
And we do have evidence of that, like there are clinical trials, randomized trial, and there's a difference between association and causation, right? Somebody can take a medication and get involved in a motor vehicle accident. It doesn't mean that, that is associated, but it was not caused by medication unless we get to the bottom of it. So many times we should continue to figure out ways to, for the safety of vaccines, of course, and medical community is always looking for that. But at the same time, like we can really come to agreement that vaccines are important. They do prevent those diseases. After all, smallpox was in the world, all around the world. It's not there anymore. So there is evidence of that.
Then there's diseases, when we passed the Vaccine Act, when I was a kid, there was only 3 vaccines. I was compliant. But when we passed the Vaccine Act, it made vaccines very, very valuable. And all of a sudden, there was a gold rush to add a lot of new vaccines to the schedule for diseases that aren't even casually contagious, like rotavirus, like hepatitis B. Why are we giving hepatitis B vaccine to a 1-day-old child? Hepatitis B, the major vectors for that are it's sexually transmitted or by needles Why would you give that to a one-day-old trial? It's really a profit motive. Now, you're right that correlation is not causation, but the Institute of
Can you stop
Medicine
it?
has looked at the vaccine.
It's not a fucking profit motive. They're trying to kill the
They're
population.
trying to kill us. I know.
Anyway, continue.
But what is he? We want him to say that?
He doesn't have to say anything. He doesn't have to say a reason. Just don't say the wrong reason.
Vaccine schedule and said in their 2011 report, there are over 150 injuries that are likely to be associated with vaccines that have never been studied. So it's the CDC's responsibility to do those studies, and they've been ordered again and again and again to do them, and they have refused. And that's wrong. We need an agency that is putting public health first and not pharmaceutical profits. You were talking about the opioid crisis. The opioid crisis, started with the oxycodone. Now it's fentanyl. But the same companies that got the FDA to lie to us about the addictiveness, lie to every doctor in this country about the addictiveness of oxycodone and get a whole generation addicted. Those are the same companies that make these, other products. And
Anyway, dude, I just feel like, I'm going to ask you about him in a second, but I just feel like, you notice he's talking, and then this woman, he says something like, there was no test, and she's like, yes, there were. And then he's talking to the doctor, but it's just like a trance. It's some kind of, it's like a cult. They can't let go. They just can't let go of this like, in Russian we call it marazm, It's like some kind of a smoke scream veil. I don't know. It's really a veil. And it's almost like he didn't say anything. It's almost like he just told the guy,
yeah,
this is what happened in Africa. It's correlation equals causation. We understand. It's common sense. But somebody got kicked, run over by a truck, and
Listen,
Dude,
do you remember when Tick History? Remember when Tick History was talking? He was reading out of Mein Kampf.
Yeah.
Right. And he was saying that the person should only read. They should not read everything. They should read only what supports their view and discard the rest.
Yeah.
Meaning, in other words, whatever doesn't fit into your view is discarded.
Yeah.
So these people are just literally reciting their, like you pull a string and they say their talking points.
Yeah, it
doesn't matter what he says. Yeah. So he'll just, even if it contradicts what he said, and he was able to, you can go up to them and say, show me all that stuff you were talking about. Like, show me how you really can't find the studies that were done, the safety studies, and, show me that correspondence that you had with Fauci, and show me how he responded saying that he couldn't find any. Show me how you sued him. He could provide all that, right?
Yeah.
But they're not saying that. They're just saying what the ripcord.
Yeah.
When you pull, there's somebody behind them that pulls a ripcord.
Yeah.
Right. It's like one of those dolls, that just says something.
But is it those demons? Like when somebody behind it.
Yes.
It's astounding, man.
Yes.
How do we defeat the things that are making them behave this way, these people? Because it's not like we're fighting even the people, we're defining the things that making them behave this way.
So you have to understand, first of all, that you have to understand what we said, that they're not responding to what he said.
I know, I get it.
They're like bots.
They're doing the mantra. So how do we turn off the?
We have to listen carefully and listen to who's actually saying stuff and backing it up, and who's just saying stuff like
that I get. I'm just saying, how do we convince everybody else that what these people are saying is total horse crap?
How do we convince that? We get them to watch the show. How do we get them to watch the show? I have no effing idea. No, because I know if they listen to this process, this conversation, right?
Yeah.
I think that could help. I think that's the value of this program that we're doing here.
For sure.
How do we get people to watch? I don't know. I just don't know. Okay.
Yeah.
I tried to get big on Twitter. I finally made it a little bit. Now they cut me off again.
Dude, I'm telling you, it's something. We spoke about this. It's something to do with connected to your brother, and it's also something connected to something. It's something a little bit freaky at this point, I think.
I just got to, yes, it is. It is. I just got to the point where if I maybe post an episode here and there, it might start driving up our
start doing it today. Start with this.
I can't. They won't let me post anything.
So I'll post it and you retweet it. Can you retweet?
Yeah, sure.
I'll post it.
Actually, I don't know. I haven't tried in a few hours since the morning.
Okay.
Let's see.
Okay. I'll post it. I'll post the Rumble and you retweet it.
Right. So I actually
first do a test post. See if you can post like do a test.
And then after that, I have to go because my brother-in-law is now here, and I am expected.
He's late. No, I'm kidding. It's funny we started an hour late, so it's all right.
Any progress with the kitty?
I don't know. I'm not sure. From what I know, I don't think so. Tiger pants. We'll find him. We'll get him.
He's still here? Is Ellie still here? Okay, good. Yeah, but I'm finishing up right now. No, I'm finishing up. Like 1 more minute. Okay. Rafi says hi, everyone.
Hello.
I want to show Rafi's cute face, but you made me scared.
Mm-hmm.
No, he made me paranoid that I shouldn't show him. He made me paranoid that I shouldn't show him.
I mean, you can do whatever you want.
I know I can do whatever I want, but you made me think.
Well, you have animals behind you, so
they're okay. They're anonymous enough.
You know who they remind me of? It's like you remember Team America? They're like, we're the guards. The guards.
I don't remember that. I need to watch that movie again because
it was like what's his name? Martin Sheen and the other one. Guards. We're guards. We're the guards.
I don't recall that, but it sounds funny.
Yeah, it's very funny. All right, so were you able to do like test, like a test? Just write test.
Oh, okay.
See what happens.
I did that earlier, but let's try it again.
Try it again. What does it tell you when you try to do this?
I'll tell you what it tells me. I'll tell you this. Oh, what the hell am I doing? Damn it.
You never know what he's doing.
Oh, so annoying. Oh, 1 second.
Twitter. It's all these platforms. It's just they're all the same.
Okay, test. Oh, they let me post something.
Wonderful. All right. So I guess you'll post this episode after it uploads.
All right.
Just wait for it to fully, whatever.
Yes.
Materialize.
Yeah.
All right, sir.
I hope this was weird enough for you.
It was good. It's good.
Are you entertained?
Are you not entertained?
Are you not entertained?
You just won't die.
Yeah. I want to go back. Would you ever consider, like, if we make contact with Mr. Bledsoe, would you consider taking a trip again?
To go there? I would consider taking a trip as long as we know where the hell we're going and as long as we have a guide.
No. This time it's going to be, to his place if he allows it. If he allows it.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. All right, sir.
All right, I'll reach out.
All right.
It doesn't mean that those things are good, but they're just whatever.
Just to see what's going on over there.
Yes.
All right.
Because I'll just leave with this. You know that rip between the two worlds that I was talking about, where again, it's hard for me to miss the point that's where COVID was.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
And now that's where the phenomenon is occurring. Some kind of rip happened.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. All right, sir.
All right, everyone. Please subscribe. Please support us.
Give us money here.
But we'll do good with it. We're not gonna.
Yeah.
Not immediately go into the strip club. All right. I'm gonna get
maybe later.
Better background, a better streaming service, a better wardrobe,
Mm-hmm.
a better face, maybe, better hat, better haircut.
Yeah.
We'll do the right thing with it. So support us.
Yes.
Over and out.
All right, sir.
Take care.
Peace.